There's no such thing as a small disaster. So when you call 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota, we come prepared to restore your life back to normal. From burst pipes to unexpected mold discoveries or fire damage, when things couldn't be worse, we come to you with our best. With empathy, local expertise, and a truck full of seriously powerful equipment. 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. Restoring what matters most. 701-670-2022.
Hi there, Meteorologist Lisa Green here, and welcome to this Valley News Now weather update brought to you by 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. So we're here to talk about this big change that's been coming this week. The pattern getting more active. We're getting our pattern switching to a more southwesterly flow, where we're getting our direction of our general weather. So that tends to introduce the potential for more warmth. We've been seeing that, and more moisture too. And so watching out for this next system to be what is not typically amounts of moisture that we see this time of year. February, we do get snow, but it tends to be a rather dry month when it comes to moisture. But with the kind of setup that we have, we're looking out for a precip both in the form of rain and snow. That's going to be a little heavier, a little heftier amounts coming our way. So watching out for that. Some cooler weather coming with it too, but we still have one more day today of some mild conditions. And in fact, even tomorrow shouldn't be that cold. It's just we'll be in the midst of seeing the wind pick up and the precip pick up. So it's not going to be pleasant to be out in it anyway, even if our temperatures are still above freezing. So that's what we're looking at here as we are working our way into the week. It's President's Day. Happy President's Day. Maybe you're off. Maybe you are out of school. I know a lot of school districts are out. So, get out and enjoy this while you can before things start to change. And we'll get into the details here coming up. You can see behind me, got our first alert weather days for Tuesday and Wednesday. So tomorrow, that's when the system's starting to move in and take over, and it gets kind of tough, especially when it comes to the wind. And then Wednesday's going to be all snow and still some wind, but falling snow and tough travel. And even Thursday, this lingers. So this is when we're going to watch for a bit. But I do want to just do a quick recap. And we had a beautiful weekend. I hope you had a great Valentine's Day weekend. We had such warm weather. In fact, we set some records, or tied a record in the Jamestown area. We had a record high of 55 degrees tied there. And looks like my graphics are not updating. We're going to do an update here. I'm going to try to reload our program so we can move along. And hi, Jamie. Thanks for watching and for commenting. And again, anytime we have any questions about the weather when we're talking live on these events on Facebook Live, you can always comment your questions, and I will try to get back to you and answer your questions. Let's see if this works now. There we go. I think it was just locked up a little bit. So let's have a little fun first. We do this every year, stages of a Minnesota, North Dakota winter. And you're here. You see it right above me. Of course, we've been in winter for a while, and we've seen really warm temperatures take over. So none of us, anybody who's lived here for even a year, even one winter season, we're not fooled by what we're experiencing right now. We know there's more winter to come. It's just nice to get that midwinter break. So right now we are at full spring. We'll open this up here. I love these. And so, second winter's coming. We know that. And it's coming on Wednesday. And then, we go kind of back and forth. Once we get into the month of March, we see wintry weather, and then we warm up a lot of times. Sometimes there's flood season. Sometimes we skip past that. And wouldn't that be nice this year? And then, eventually we get into full-on spring. So we'll continue to track this along as we head into these, this tail end of winter, the second half of winter now. So yesterday, again, was so nice. We had temperatures that just soared. A look at Fargo, 49. It was 44 in Grand Forks. I mentioned the record in Jamestown. We tied a record high there at 55. Sisseton, 61 degrees, just toasty. So again, a very warm day for February standards on Sunday. I don't think we'll get that warm today, but we are looking at still some milder numbers coming up here. Here's a look outside on our camera at Newman Outdoor Field. You can see that some clouds have drifted in, and that is the case for some areas. We may see more clouds and even a chance for a few flakes up in the north, and I'll show you that in just a moment here today. But overall, still looking pretty mild, and there are a lot of places enjoying sun. Some places where, yet again, just like almost every other day of this warm-up, we have somewhere in the valley dealing with some fog as well. So let's see here. There's one of those places, the Goodridge area in Minnesota. Visibility is pretty low in this area with temperatures below freezing. Roads may be slick, frosty conditions out on some of those roads as well. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be traveling and you run into, areas where we have some fog. It might also be more on the slick side, or it may, the fog may have cleared up, but the road's still slick a little bit. So keep that in mind again as you are traveling for today. We'll take a quick look at road conditions. We'll keep it quick though, so we can get to the storm system. But looking at our ValleyNewsLive.com page /weather. That's how you get to our weather page, and road conditions are at the top here. Let's click on that. In North Dakota, we've had some frost in northeastern parts of the state. That's this light blue area. I'll zoom in a little more. The light blue area, northeastern North Dakota. If you look at our legend here, light blue is frost or scattered frost. So we're seeing that in that area. There is some ice and some snow in central North Dakota from some of that snow I mentioned earlier on. And in fact, let's pull up the weather on this page. From the DOT, you can see there's a little bit of blue on the map, a little bit of pink too over by Minot. So they're getting a little bit of ice there. If you are in Minot or in the vicinity or traveling in that direction, just know it might be a little extra slick for you there. And then we have some flakes flying around in places like the James River area and then over by Devil's Lake as well. So that is, in fact, let me just pull up we'll turn off the radar and pull up cameras. Leeds I was looking at earlier had some snow showing up, and I'm still seeing it. You can see the wet roads along Highway 2. And let's go over toward Devil's Lake a little bit more. It's kind of hard to tell. Sometimes if it's not coming down really heavy, it can be kind of hard to tell in the daytime. Thought I clicked on the right camera. There we go. Michigan, not showing much, but there are places again getting some flakes around this area. Jamestown, let's see here. Camera doesn't want to come up. There we go. Looks like if we did have some flakes, it's improving. So again, minor areas of flaky activity going on there. Let's look into Minnesota. That's North Dakota. Minnesota, if we are seeing some light snow, it's on the North Dakota side right now. Minnesota, we'll show you this in a moment. This highlighted area, that is a dense fog advisory that remains in effect until noon. And we'll turn off that weather warning so we can just see the roads. And you can see there are some areas where slush is being reported on the roadway, a little bit of light ice along Highway 89. There's that Goodridge camera I was just showing you just a moment ago, so that's east of Thief River Falls if you were wondering where that is. And then south of Red Lake Falls, the Brooks area, looks a bit murky, but some improvement there. East of Bemidji, Cass Lake area, that looks murky. So yes, we're looking at some fog along Highway 2 there. And these dots, a reminder, these dots are showing where visibility is low. So when they're close together like that, they're at 1/10 of a mile or less, visibility is. So Crookston along Highway 2 through Erskine and Foston. And then visibility where it's a little more spaced out, but we still have the dots, it's a 1/2 mile or less, so up by Thief River Falls area. So again, that's a look at road conditions. We'll go back to our graphics here. There's Goodridge again, looking quite murky this morning. So let's move on. That should lift over time. We've got fog reports that are looking a lot better than they did earlier this morning. Some reduced visibility in Devil's Lake, and that's probably because of the flakes. You can see Waskish area, we are down to 0 still up by Red Lake. And that there is a sensor there. I'm going to check it out. Yeah, some fog being reported there. And, you know, some other places where visibility is lower, but that will get gradually improve. Here's that dense fog advisory I mentioned until noon today. Places in eastern North Dakota, we had a few counties included in this. That was dropped early because conditions improved. But, you know, Thief River Falls, Foston, Crookston, up through Hallock and Roseau, still seeing some fog in those areas. And then our other alert, the other reason we're talking today, this morning, is the the winter storm, of course, that we're watching closely. So we do have our winter storm watch. Sorry, I'm just looking over and seeing some comments. Hi, everybody. We got a viewer from Cayman Islands. My goodness. I bet it's beautiful down there. Where? Not really in Walhalla. I don't think we have much fog in Walhalla, if that's what you're wondering about. Or maybe frost on the roadways. It might be improving there already, and it just hasn't updated on the site, on the map. So anyway, we're talking about winter storm watch late Tuesday through Wednesday all the way into Thursday morning. So we're going to be feeling the impacts of this storm for more than just 24 hours. And we're looking at anywhere in this watch is where we have the greater likelihood of at least 6 inches of snow. You could see it's Highway 2. It's basically that corridor from Cooperstown through Monoman and the Bagley and Bemidji area, and then down toward Park Rapids, included in this. That doesn't mean we're not going to see snow in the southern part of the valley. In fact, it might get dicey in its own way in the southern part of the valley with rain and maybe some freezing rain or sleet and then changing over to snow. It's just that the criteria for a winter storm watch, generally speaking, is 6 inches of snow or more. So this is where it's more likely. And that also could change. And we're also watching out for wind too. That's going to be getting blustery leading up to this too. So we're going to break all this down for you. One thing I will mention is there are a few flakes out there right now, as I was just showing you on our cameras. We've got a few areas around the Devil's Lake Basin, Jamestown as well. This has generally been pretty weak. And the expectation is for this to continue to weaken, but it has had some impacts. As we can see, we are looking at, I'm going to zoom in a little more here, and I'm going to pause this on our current look. And DOT map showed some ice. This pink means freezing drizzle, so some ice around Minot. So heading up Highway 2 might be kind of, again, slick. And then back over toward the Devil's Lake area, just watching for some flakes in that area. And also, I don't want to overlook the Jamestown area either. You can see a little bit of snow there. So don't be surprised if you see it. This is not the main event, though, and we're still going to have some mild conditions. So let's take a look at that. We have temperatures that are already at the melting point, at the freezing point, at 32 degrees in Fargo and Grand Forks. Jamestown above freezing, so is Fergus Falls and Bemidji. Devil's Lake's reporting temperatures just under freezing at 28. And you can see varying cloud cover. Some places full on sunshine, especially in the east and in the south. Fargo's had some clouds pass overhead. And Jamestown, again, some areas with some clouds and perhaps even a few flakes. So for today, we're already climbing above freezing, so we're going to continue to see that snow melt we've been talking about the last several days. A lot of our snowpack dwindling. It's still out there, but we've really seen a lot of it dwindle. And if we add rain to the mix tonight and into tomorrow, we're going to be watching out for more rapid melting. But for, I shouldn't say tonight, Tuesday to Wednesday, looking at more rapid melting. But even today, with temperatures reaching the upper 30s and low 40s, some moderate melting continuing. So I want to talk first of all, just kind of do an overview of what we're looking at the next couple of days, and then we'll get into the details. If you're hitting the road today, mild, quiet, again, a few flakes going on out in the west. There is that fog, of course, that we need to watch out for. Heading into Tuesday, one of our first alert weather days, morning looks okay. It's going to be on the windy side, but increasing precipitation through the second half of the day on Tuesday, and it gets tougher into the night. We'll be watching for rain, switching over to snow, and I don't have this here, but there's going to be some stronger winds on Tuesday as well. Wednesday, we keep that going, and then everything changes over to snow on Wednesday. We get the cumulative effects of accumulating snow, and so it makes it tougher for travel. There may be some blowing snow, but this is going to be a heavy, wet snow. More kind of a March type snow system. So, that's going to be bringing its own kind of unique hazards. And then heading into Thursday, still some impacts, some medium impacts to travel with some lingering snow showers going on. So that's the overview. Let's take a look at our hour by hour planner. We're going to start things off tonight at 8 o'clock. Just a few of those flakes still lingering, some clouds. I don't expect, there might be a little bit of fog trying to get going initially heading into tonight, but the wind is really going to be picking up. So that helps to keep the air moving, keeping it from settling and from creating that fog that we see on quiet, clear nights. where we cool down to the dew point. We're not necessarily going to see that kind of scenario. However, there is that possibility initially that we have a little bit of fog here. Heading into late tonight and into tomorrow morning, again, seeing that happen. Noon, this is where I paused the clock here. This is 12:30 lunch hour tomorrow. So, a little under 24 hours from now, it's just windy. We've got the wind picking up out of the east-southeast. We're seeing some hints of precip starting up, and it's around this time where things start to change. So watch what happens as we go ahead a few hours. By 5 o'clock, we're starting to see some of this fill in as this low develops. We've got rain. We've got in red and green, we've got freezing drizzle possible in the pink, and then we're starting to see some areas of snow develop as well. And I just want to stress that this is one model run, one model simulation, and not all of them are an exact agreement on exactly where it's going to start and the timeline as far as, where your community will see that precip. The takeaway is that overall, from noon on, we need to be watching out for precip to start up. And it gets more and more likely as we head into the evening hours, heading into Tuesday night. The other scenario that is going to be hard to nail down, even heading into tomorrow until we start to see this system take shape, is where the rain-snow line sets up. And that is going to be the difference maker. Where that low tracks, that will make the difference of where we see that cutoff from rain to snow initially. And that'll be the difference maker on amounts and the experience that you have in your community. So Southern Valley looks more like rain initially, Northern Valley more a quick changeover to snow. And so that's why the Northern Valley is more likely to be in that higher amounts with this system. But one little wobble in that low, one little movement on that track from what the models are showing could be a difference between, all rain to rain, sleet to snow to all snow for your community. So again, just want to stress that here. It's a complex dynamic system that we're going to be tracking over the coming days. So this is 5 o'clock on Tuesday. So we're going to be windy. Where the snow has started, that wind and snow combination is going to be a real problem for visibility. And it's going to be heavy at times. It's that heavy, wet snow. So even without the wind, visibility will come down. And so by 10 o'clock, you can see a lot of areas with blue indicating some snow with this system. And notice where this particular model has the rain-snow line. It has a little farther south. Others have it a little farther north. So kind of Fargo's on that cutoff. So again, still some uncertainty here. In where that line sets up. But you can see south of the line, rain, north of the line, snow, and that transition to snow happens pretty quickly in some areas. So this is 10 p.m. And as we make our way into the overnight hours and into Wednesday, you see what happens. Everybody starts to get in on the snow. It's more scattered. There are areas where it's more like, uniform, but it does become more scattered through the course of the day, so some breaks in between. And where amounts, if this track pans out, where amounts would be lightest is more Southern Valley, and then heavier, more steady snow going on in the north, again, with that wind. And I want to point out the wind direction too. So the low is going to be moving. I haven't plotted the low on here, but the low is going to be, if you just look at the winds, you can kind of tell. The wind coming from east to west, and then we've got another area of wind going kind of northwest or west to east. And so it's in this area where this particular model is tracking that center of circulation, that low. And oftentimes it's north of that center of circulation where we see that heaviest snow shield. So that's what we're looking at here. So if the low tracks a little farther south, that whole snow shield shifts southward. So I'm going to put myself on here so we can show you that. So this whole area here shifts southward. If that is what happens with the low. So what we're going to be watching closely is how the low develops and which model handles that location of the low really well as we start tomorrow morning. So I'll be checking that pretty closely, and then we can have an even better idea tomorrow morning of how this event is going to evolve through the course of the day. So we'll bring this back up. I'm going to get rid of that scribble that I have on there and just go through a little bit more. And you can see that snow more scattered, but still a lot of areas picking up snow, circulating around that low. And as the low moves overhead, it can tend to bring us a little bit of a break in the wind. So maybe not as windy as that snow is coming down. And because it's heavy, wet snow, my hope is that it won't get picked up and blown around as well. But again, it creates its own problems. We get more reduced visibility from, those heavier snow showers coming down. In addition to that, it's harder to shovel, so it's more difficult and can be hazardous for folks who are vulnerable to this kind of snow. And wet snow can be a little more slick, slushy, sloppy roads out there too. With this particular event. Now heading into, we just moved ahead from 7-ish on Wednesday evening to 7 a.m. Thursday. Most of the action is done, but there's still some areas of some isolated and pockets of light snow coming down and a little bit of wind coming in out of the northwest, a little breezy in the wake of that low. So that's a rough idea of the timeline of this system. Starting up around noon tomorrow, and then ramping up through the second part of the day, and some of us getting rain, some of us getting snow right away, and then eventually everybody changes over to snow. And then that lasts through Wednesday, that potential for snow, and then once we get into Thursday, it's more spotty snow showers going on. But moisture is interesting with this one because it's February, and we're talking our models really bringing in some significant moisture. Anywhere in yellow is 1 inch or greater. And so this would include any rain, but also any snow meltdown. So just the total moisture within the system. And 1 inch is a lot to work with here. So we're looking at that possibility for some heftier totals with that amount. Of course, the liquid to snow ratio a little lower with this, with the more wet nature of the snow. But that also can mean with heavier wet snow, the amounts that you measure could also mean that they're lower, because heavy wet snow, what does it do? Well, it compacts. So that's going to mean your measurements might be a little bit lower, especially the longer the event goes on. So kind of tough to nail down exactly how much we're looking at here as far as snowfall is concerned, but the moisture is there. So looking out for that, looking out for any areas that get rain, that maybe get that 1/2 inch to 1 inch, that could cause some melting of the snowpack, which could be an issue. Very localized for some areas of standing water too. So that's another thing to keep in mind too. And as we'll move ahead here, but again, 1/2 inch or more in green of moisture. Ground is still frozen, so that's going to run off pretty quickly. And then also where we have rain, of course. And then 1 inch or more is in the yellow. And I will stress too that most of our models are in agreement of having this kind of magnitude of precip. Some models have it shifted a little farther north, others kind of right over the heart of the valley, like you're seeing right here. So the moisture looks to be there with this system. Okay, let's get back to the graphics. Let's see, ice potential. Okay, so there is that transition zone that we're going to see between the rain and snow. So there is that risk that we could see the possibility of some freezing rain, some freezing drizzle going on with this, some sleet, just kind of sloppy conditions in that transition zone. And this particular model, this is the model I just showed you, the hour by hour planner. This is associated with that one. And this is our in-house model. And you can see some areas where we're looking at up to 1/10 of an inch, maybe even getting into at that range or slightly higher. So it's something to watch for closely as we get into the nighttime hours on Tuesday night. And so this goes through Wednesday and into Thursday, but it's really Tuesday night that I'm looking out for that potential for ice. And now let's talk about snow potential. Now this is I think I need to go a little bit farther ahead. There we go. I had a pause in there. This is, I would take this as a general kind of outlook here for the snowfall. So you can see that area in deep blue, this area here. So this is in that 6+ range. And then there's a kind of a sharp drop off south of there. And I chose this particular model scenario to show you what is a possibility. We have the moisture there for that 6+. Some models are going a little high. I do think they might be a little too high. In some of these scenarios, but the blue is the 6 to 12 inch range, and then in the drop off here, we're looking at this medium blue, 3 to 6 inches, and then 1 to 3, and then 0 to 1. So there could be a situation here where we see very little snow down by the South Dakota border with this system. Fargo Moorhead in that area of transition, and then north of there, that 6+ heavy wet snow. And so that's, I think, the best scenario to show you about what's possible. One thing I will say, though, is, again, if the low tracks farther south, this whole area of deeper blue shifts south or north. It shifts north. And so when you're right in that transition zone, like Fargo may be, if we're in that, that where that rain snow line is going to be, amounts could be anywhere from, getting rain and maybe a little bit of ice and sleet and then an inch of snow on top of that, and that's it. Meanwhile, our neighbors to the north and Grand Forks end up with 6+ inches of snow. Or, it may shift a little farther south. Fargo gets 3 to 6, and then we're looking at, still that heavy snow in the northern valley. It's something that we'll definitely need to watch, again, with that rain snow line. But this is what the potential is, an area of 6+, likely in the north. But again, there could be a little shift in that, and then dropping amounts from there as far as snow is concerned. But as we saw with our precip potential, everybody's in line for getting some moisture, and 1/2 inch to 1 inch plus. And it's just a matter of what form that moisture comes in, and it'll be impacting us regardless. Just different kinds of impacts depending on, the timing and how much snow you end up seeing. Okay, so that's snow potential. Let's take a look at wind. So wind will be interesting as well, because what I'm looking at here is, oh no, I think I went too far ahead on my setup. Okay, we'll just talk about it. The wind is, let me see. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm in a studio where I'm pretty far away from my weather graphics, so I'm unable to go back in time on this. But we'll talk about it here. The wind is going to be strong tomorrow. We're looking at gusts that in the morning start in the 20 to 30 mile per hour range, more out of the east tomorrow. And once we get into the afternoon and into the evening, the wind picks up. I think we'll see some of our strongest gusts. Afternoon to nighttime hours Tuesday night, we could see 30, 40+ mile per hour gusts. That plus falling snow, wherever that snow is falling, again, some of us starting with rain, that's going to be an issue for visibility. But once that low moves overhead, and we've been talking about this, once that low moves overhead, the wind starts to come down a little bit. It's still there. It's still breezy. It's just not as intense. And so that's what you're seeing behind me is a Wednesday morning when, we're kind of, if that low tracks right over us, what we may see. You can see kind of an easing in the wind, more gusts into the 20s to about 30 miles per hour at that point. And then we can go on from here and see as we go through the morning hours that it's still blustery. We still have some wind, and then our data drops out there. And then we see conditions get a little breezy with wind out of the northwest. So that's the situation with the wind on this system. Let's take a look at the next couple of days. So what I think will be interesting here is that I'm just going to look on our website while you check out those numbers for the next couple of days, because I want to see if I have a wind map going on our website right now. But the bottom line is the strongest winds will be as the system is approaching. And then as it's departing, it'll still be breezy, but the wind won't be as strong. And again, a heavy wet snow. What I'm hoping for is it won't be as easily lofted once it's on the ground because of the nature of the snow. So we're looking at conditions that are, not ideal as far as travel is concerned, but kind of that whole scenario of it could be worse when it comes to the wind and the snow combination. But I think tomorrow night could be pretty tough anywhere where we have the wind and the snow at the same time, and that's going to be more for tomorrow night. And then more just breezy afterward heading into Thursday. So again, there are the numbers behind me. So we are going to be really warm today. I mentioned earlier that tomorrow it'll still be warm. You can see on Tuesday, still getting into the 30s to some 40s. The problem is there's going to be that wind That's going to make it feel less comfortable out there. We're going to have the precip starting up in the afternoon hours. You can see this is set for the afternoon. So afternoon, it's more likely that we'll start as rain just about everywhere. But eventually that changeover to snow happens. And you could see that, temperatures will still be mild. Even on Wednesday, it won't be too bad out there. We're going to see highs around that freezing mark. So it's going to be kind of wet, melty, slushy, sloppy snow that is there. That once it falls, it's going to compact. It's going to melt a little bit too. So it's just going to be kind of tough for travel and tough for shoveling as well. But temperature is still not frigid. We're looking at some low 30s. And now let's take a look at the 11-day planner. So again, downward turn in our temperatures, but not a sudden drop over the course of the next few days. Today, 42, tomorrow 41, Wednesday right around freezing. And Tuesday, by the way, is Mardi Gras. So if you had some Mardi Gras plans for Tuesday night, keep them indoors. They may not be too much fun and might not be great for travel. Also Tuesday night, heading into Ash Wednesday. If you have plans to head out to services, might be something to check on before you hit the road on Wednesday. And with our first alert weather day and the potential for, tough travel with the snow. And then beyond that, still getting some lingering snow showers on Thursday. We'll still have that breezy weather, more northwesterly wind, and temperatures on that downward trend. But not an Arctic outbreak. We're looking at some numbers into the teens for highs and single digits for some lows, which is, going to be cold compared to where we've been. Remember, we got to 55 in Jamestown yesterday. But, good, close to 40-degree difference. But it can be much colder and has been much colder in February around here. So it's tolerable. It's just not going to be feeling so great when you're stepping out into it this weekend with those temperatures. And then moving on into next week, that last week of February, we're into the 20s to some low 30s. So not bad at all. It's just not, again, as warm as we've been. So with that, I'm going to take a look and see if we've got any questions. I'm not seeing any, just folks saying hi. I really appreciate you guys watching. Helps me to feel like I've got some people on the other end who are benefiting from this forecast. And, of course, we're always happy to answer your questions about the weather as these events are coming up. Bottom line is that it's going to be a little bit different for February on this particular system because we're warm and unusually warm for this time of year. And in addition, that the flow that we're getting the system in more westerly to southwesterly, it allows for more moisture. So this one is more of a, as I mentioned before, kind of a what we would typically see, what we would expect to see more into March. With more moisture associated with it. So I guess treat it, it's kind of been feeling like March lately, the warm up and the thaw we've been seeing. So I guess, we keep that going in the forecast, more of a March winter system coming our way. So we'll continue to monitor the models as they come in, how this is going to evolve throughout the day. We'll have our crew, of course, be back here this afternoon with another update. You can check valleynewslive.com. Our VNL weather app is always great to track the radar and track the latest forecasts for the week ahead. And in addition to that, we'll be back here tomorrow too. I'll have another update tomorrow morning. We'll be seeing that system evolve more by this time tomorrow morning. It will just be starting up, producing its precip and creating the system itself as it starts to move in. So we'll be able to really nail down where it's looking like we'll see that rain-snow transition most likely, and talk more about amounts and all of that as we head into tomorrow morning. And, in the meantime, it won't be that bad behind it. It's just going to be colder than we've been. And those who've missed the snow have been, kind of sad about seeing the snow go away. It's coming back. It's going to be heavy, wet snow. If you are somebody who does have health issues, if you're more vulnerable, a reminder that this is the kind of snow, they call it heart attack snow. It's not a great name, but it conveys what it can be like for some folks. It really can tax you if you're out shoveling. So if you have somebody else who can do it for you, a great idea to do so. maybe your neighbor has a snow blower, so you don't have to do the shoveling either. Let's see if they can help you out too, because this is going to be a heavier snow in those areas that see it. Again, not everybody is going to get that 6+ range, but some of us likely will. And so that's all I have for this morning. Again, we'll be back with more updates throughout the day. And this has been your weather update brought to you by 1-800-WATER Damage of North Dakota. I hope you have a great day. Enjoy, this last kind of quiet day, both mild and not a lot going on right now before that wind picks up tomorrow morning ahead of that storm that'll be moving in. So have a great Monday. If you're off for President's Day, enjoy your time off.
There's no such thing as a small disaster. So when you call 1-800-WATER Damage of North Dakota, we come prepared to restore your life back to normal. From burst pipes to unexpected mold discoveries or fire damage, when things couldn't be worse, we come to you with our best. With empathy, local expertise, and a truck full of seriously powerful equipment. 1-800-WATER Damage of North Dakota. Restoring what matters most. 701-670-2022.